Well, this guy took a while to find time to come on this interview platform. He's a very busy person. He's very coveted. And finally, I found some time to get him on, and he was able to have the time in his schedule to make this happen. This is Jason Bernstein, SVP, Content and Operations at Told Right, has worked a lot in the sports world, worked with ESPN, programming, tennis, the list goes on. And we're going to look at his career, learn more about some of the massive moves that he has made, but also take a look at what he's like away from work, his personal side as well. And this is the On to Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio, on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. So there's so many different things I want to talk about, Jason. First of all, just to have you on, and I had to talk to like 5 different people, and then Jason this and Jason that, finally got you on. But I wanted to begin here because if I'm not mistaken, Jason, way back in the day, you played a pivotal role in getting the hot dog eating contest onto ESPN, and that has really become a signature event for ESPN. So what was going through your mind when you were thinking about potentially adding this to ESPN, and then to see what it's done since?
Lunch. That was that's what it was. No. So first of all, what a great hype man you are. So thank you. Fantastic to hear. I need to travel with you, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, one of the early days for me at ESPN in the programming side was looking at all kinds of cool stuff we could bring into the fold for TV. And the Nathan's hot dog eating contest was one, and I believe it was 2003. And we had a lunch with the leadership at that time was the IFOS, International Federation of Competitive Eating, that has evolved to Major League Eating now. And those guys are great and still are, of course. And we had lunch, and we're talking about how this could become a television product. And I don't mean to say product like transaction. It was as a real thing. And as you've seen year over year, it has grown, worked around Olympics and all kinds of other conflicts that come up in the programming scheduling world, and has survived in terms of some of the nuances of life and growth over the years, and not only survived but thrived. And it's one of those cool ones. And to talk about gurgitators in a way that means something is pretty cool. And those, again, they're just great people, the competitors in the league, and it's one of those special ones.
What do you think it is about watching the actual competition that captivates even the casual sports fan, who then has this interest and fascination with what's going on July 4th at the Nathan's hot dog eating contest?
Well, one of the things that people love about sports so much, aside from the competition, is just that there's a relatable component of, hey, I played that sport, right? Or I understand that, or my daughters or my sons or friends or whatever, we all know that sport. And so hot dog consumption is well known in this country. And so I think there's a little bit of a relatability to that. And then you start adding in the fun of, the July 4th timing is perfect. The fact that there is a competition, and these competitors, gurgitators, take it so seriously, as they should, because it's important to them, and it's real. It isn't fake, and it's generally fun and safe. Again, there's depending upon how many calories, but it's relatable, and that's one of the things about sports, right? I mean, we used to kid around about everyone being an expert in 2 things in life: television and their own job. And so when you look at sports on television, there's a relatability to it, and that's where this competition, I think, made a lot of sense.
Where do you see that relatability transferring over to the work you've done in tennis? And obviously, for those who don't know your background, you've worked a lot with ESPN in programming and building up programming as far as adding on more events that are being televised by ESPN. Being in the weeds there and helping grow the sport from a television and ESPN perspective, where do you see the common fan agreeing with you, the relatability in that we want to see more tennis? And again, another thing that you had your blueprints on, and it has grown since.
Yeah, I mean, at the I was fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time in that same period of 2003 through 15, 16, and the growth of that with respect to coverage on television and broadcast entities, ultimately digital, et cetera. And what was clear was there was always an appetite for tennis. And at that time, we were kind of, you look around the landscape and the competitors, if you will, were still living in a world of taped content, turning around tennis from, to keep it nice and tightly fit for broadcast windows. And, we were at Wimbledon many years, while a certain network was carrying coverage of tape delayed coverage. And it dawned on us that, and we were live around them. And one of the things that got me every year was that after he retired, Andre Agassi was at home watching Wimbledon on tape delay. Like, how could that be? How can that happen? And so we were really pushing to be more live, more tennis, more. And that's what led to a strategy that included the ATP 1000s, a lot of the 500s, WTA Tour regular season rights, and of course expanding coverage in Australia, Paris at the time, Wimbledon, and then of course ultimately getting into the U.S. Open rights business, for some of the quote unquote cable rights, and then of course all of the rights at the right time, and it really became a crescendo to populate as much tennis across the board as possible and give fans as much to choose from. In a linear network, you're obviously subject to what the programming people or the network selections are for what you're watching. And on a football Sunday in a certain market, you're given a game that generally is your market game, but there are other games available, right? And now you have an ability to go see those games at once in a number of ways. And in the tennis world, we were trying to do that early on. When we're showing a given match, there are a lot of other matches, generally speaking, at tournaments that are available at once. And we were trying to populate the platforms, ESPN3 at the time, or ESPN 360, ESPN3, ESPN Plus that evolved to. And so trying to give fans as much tennis as possible was the goal.
There was the old norm, as you said, with a lot of it being tape delayed. How hard was it to convince those who were used to that form of broadcasting tennis, especially when you're across the pond and you're in the United States and it's Wimbledon, to say, hey, let's try something different? I know we haven't done this before, but what were those conversations like in those meeting rooms in really trying to change the way in which Americans consume tennis, especially when you've got such a time difference like at a Wimbledon per se?
Well, the appetite was always there from everyone. And I think the business was kind of driving that discussion. The business of broadcast television, which we were not we were not a part of, right? We were in the cable landscape trying to deliver as much live as possible. And I can tell you the organizers of all events, even if they are emanating from Asia and the time difference becomes a challenge, are always wanting their content to be live. And we were, credit to ESPN many years before me and all the way through and post my time there, that there's just a voracious appetite to deliver live content as much as possible. And if not, if it can't be live, it should be. And so that was the conversation. And there was never any resistance in our world. And all the organizers always wanted to be live. It was just about finding the right way, the right time to maneuver around existing contracts and some of the challenges that were legacy that were carried in when we entered into the mix in those specific conversations. And when we had the opportunity to really lead the conversation or to be a part of maneuvering what the schedule could happen, we were fortunate enough to be able to deliver it all live.
I see over the course of your career, solving problems seems to be part of your MO, and trying new things and making things work. And given all that you've done in the space of sports and media and technology, Jason, and really maneuvering, as you said, challenges, how, even to this stage in your career, do you go about challenging yourself and knowing what you've done already, but where do you find yourself going in terms of how you want to continue to challenge and grow yourself in this business and what your potential is and what you can do?
You're known for really good questions, so credit
Thank
to
you.
you. I love it. It's great. No, I think for where I am now, in particular at Toldright, which is essentially a network of creatives from across the globe that we put to work for use for our clients. So marrying creatives like producers, directors, hair and makeup artists, name anything in your workflow of content development and creation to those who need it, whether it's a brand or a league or any kind of corporate entity or anyone who needs content created. This has been a culmination, if you will, of what I've done with what I think you've identified as problem solving is being able to put a few pieces together to make the sum of them add up to a whole to deliver solutions. I do like complicated things and breaking them down to a simple linear kind of playback. I'm a linear thinker, and so when you're dealing with vast subject matter or components of a conversation, media rights were that, right? We were acquiring rights to be exploited and used in all territories across the globe in different functions and different ways, from a sales and marketing, PR, obviously distribution perspective. And you want to be able to put all those pieces together to have a conversation about how they can be used when you're talking to the rights holder. And a lot of these sort of complicated pieces, we're able to line them up and play them back. And now we're doing that as a business, where I'm on the operations lead, and we're also developing content across the board for a lot of partners. And clients and partners bring ideas to you. They're not necessarily bringing complete thoughts with respect to what the end is going to be, because that's where the creative comes in. And so our ability to put things together from a business model, but also creative solutions, is particularly fun for me, but also to see the output with the clients and the partners is rewarding.
Where do you do your best thinking?
Probably right here in the kitchen. No, but generally speaking, when there are a lot of disparate parts, early in the cycle of whatever the thing is, I tend to like the chaos of enormity, the unknown of what, these pieces to me feel like they can come together. We just need to put them together and then relay a simple message in conveying that. Because so much of disagreement, so much of missed opportunity, and so much of discourse is of bad discourse or poor discourse is just a communication gap. And I think, and it isn't limited to sports, isn't limited to media. I mean, it can be anything from a conversation at home to Real Housewives on TV. There's just, when you miss each other and the conversations go and the people go further away from each other, and it really could just be a simple bridge at that one moment in time to make the points clear that then avoid the disparate sort of separation. And so I really like to thrive in the communication world, and of making sure that we're not missing or talking past each other.
How would you rate your conversation skills in the workplace? And then how does it stack up against how you are in your personal life?
Well, my wife thinks I probably talk too much, and then people at work, come to think of it, probably think the same. So I would say that I do like a level of discourse that is challenging and thoughtful in the work environment, and I think that I just think that it's what drives everything. If you don't communicate well, you're not going to have good results. And and again, I go back to personal and business at the same time. If you're not communicating, the result isn't good. And that can be at home with the grocery list. And I thought you were getting it. No, I thought you were getting it. And it can also obviously be a business where, oh, I thought you were handling this. Oh, no one did it. And now here we are not delivering because nobody did anything. And it can be just a critical, simple step that's missed a lot.
You say that being a good conversationalist is part of your drive. Where ultimately, though, that might be a part of it. But for you, what is the driving force behind why you've set yourself out on this mission in conquering and your conquest of so many different things in sports media? Where does that come from?
I think it comes from a desire to be creative, which I'm creative in my own ways, but not in the traditional ways of artistic creation or um, outside the lines creative. It's more in the business world or in the like the linear. I keep going back to that, the linear playback of life. There's room for creativity, and I think that's what drives me more than anything else, is just the desire to think about things in a different way, perhaps, or to bring solutions that are unique. Maybe it's a hot dog eating contest when one didn't exist, or maybe it's a 10-year deal when they're used to doing 5, or maybe it's high school football on Twitter live for the first time, or a series of high school basketball games with some guys like Zion Williamson and Trey Jones and RJ Barrett in high school for the first time on a platform that never been done. But of course, high school sports had been done before, right? But not in that way. So it's sort of evolving some of the things that have traditionally been done, but that creativity exists, and I think that's something that I really focus on, of being creative in my world. It doesn't have to necessarily be the art world.
How young were you, Jason, when you first noticed that you had a hunch and a foresight into being a creative, where you first saw that sort of emanate around you?
I think it was it was probably in high school when I was exposed. I was always playing sports like many boys and girls growing up, and I was exposed to other creative outlets, whether it was a choir, a debate team, mock trial, these kinds of different outlets for plays, theater, for creativity and for expression, but not always hitting a ball or putting one through the hoop. And it opened my eyes that, boy, you can be acknowledged for conversation or understanding of the law with respect to mock trial in high school. That was just different, and it was sort of understanding that there are opportunities for you that aren't limited to what you think you knew going in. And that's where I think I've had people work with me and for me who have excelled in the roles they were in, and I've had people who haven't, but then they've excelled in other roles in the org, right? And it's just identifying people or experiences where people fit best. And I'm not some matchmaker or anything, but I just know that that's what I would want for me. And I've been in roles before that weren't perfect for me, and found other roles. And on the career side, and I think personally, you do the same when you're looking for something to do, something to engage with. When you make pottery or something, or I did the sourdough thing, and I continue to do that every day. We've got our starter over here, and it's just an outlet of things. I like electrical work and repairs. I like to we make candles. So just there are things to do that I wouldn't identify as something I necessarily was planning to do, but you start to investigate and learn and just find things that keep you engaged.
You deem yourself not a matchmaker, but who was the matchmaker for you and you meeting your wife?
The same kind of matchmaker that led me to ESPN. It was a .com.
Yes.
So eharmony.com.
I'm online that. Too. It works.
It definitely works. It definitely works. And then at the time, I believe it was monster.com for ESPN. So
interesting. Okay.
My life is bookended by .coms, I guess.
Well, Jason Bernstein is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. Let me leave you with this, Jason. As far as how you want to expand it told right and the ways in which you guys can enter a space that maybe has never been inhabited before, what are the visions you have for this company that it can go, amazing ways?
It's a great question, and it's what makes us so excited every day. I mean, we for those of us who had helped start the company, we were in the trenches every day in all walks of life, in the production content side, rubbing elbows with creators, producers, directors from some of the greatest events and experiences across the globe, from NBA finals to studio programs to series on Netflix and other streaming platforms. And these creators have so much to offer outside of those specific roles, that we were able to talk through with them how to maximize their time and opportunities to give that to other partners and brands. And now we're talk about matchmaking. Now we're bringing those services to all walks of life who need content created across the globe. And it's really great to see, someone who delivered a camera angle at a world-class championship event, or co-wrote one of the most well-known, funny, humorous spots in all of advertising TV, to bring those experiences to bear for any partner and brand today. And that's been the fun of it. And we do it every day to try to make the creators feel engaged as they are, and also bring the brands to such great creators and marrying that. And it's part of the fun.
He is Jason Bernstein, SVP Content and Operations at Told Right. And if I knew him when he was a youngster and I had these visions of where he'd go, I would look back at him and say, I told you so, that you would, of course, be doing great things at Told Right. Jason, I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. Really appreciate a dive into your life, and I look forward to seeing those creative juices start flowing even more with everything you guys are doing at Told Right.
Thanks, Bryan.